The autumn moon hung heavy over the Silvercrest pack, gathering grounds, casting silver light through the ancient pines that had witnessed countless ceremonies. Tonight, the air thrummed with anticipation. Alpha Demon's mating ceremony to his chosen Luna was about to begin. Ilara stood at the edge of the clearing, her worn cloak doing little to shield her from the judgmental stares. Her younger sister Mira clung to her hand, barely 6 years old, while Ilara held their infant brother Finn against her chest. The baby stirred, sensing her anxiety through the bond only siblings shared. "Why are we here?" Mira whispered, her wide eyes reflecting the torchlight. "Because we were summoned," Ilara replied softly, though dread coiled in her stomach like a living thing. The crowd parted as Alpha Demon emerged from the ceremonial hall, his powerful frame commanding immediate attention. His dark hair caught the moonlight, and his grey eyes swept the assembly with barely concealed disdain. Behind him walked Seraphina, draped in ceremonial silks, beautiful, confident, everything an Alpha's mate should be. Everything Ilara could never be. "Omega," Demon's voice cut through the murmurs like a blade. "Step forward." Ilara's wolf whimpered inside her. The mate bond that had sparked between them 3 months ago now felt like chains pulling her toward humiliation. She adjusted Finn in her arms and moved forward, Mira's small hand still clutching her dress. "Before I claim my chosen mate," Demon announced, his voice carrying across the gathering, "I formally reject the bond fate carelessly tied between myself and this Omega." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Formal rejections during ceremonies were rare, a deliberate show of dominance and dismissal. Ilara's knees threatened to buckle, but she stood firm. She had known this was coming. Ever since their parents died in the rogue attack 2 months ago, leaving her solely responsible for Mira and Finn, Demon had grown distant. An Alpha couldn't afford weakness, and she, an Omega barely 20 years old with 2 orphaned siblings to raise, was the definition of burden. "I, Alpha Demon of Silvercrest, reject you, Ilara Thorn, as my fated mate." The formal words struck like physical blows. "You are released from this bond." The severing felt like fire through her veins. Ilara bit her lip hard enough to taste copper, refusing to cry out. Finn began to wail, sensing her pain through their sibling connection. "Accept it," Demon commanded coldly. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Mira's grip tightened painfully. Ilara looked down at her sister's frightened face, then at the baby crying in her arms. She thought of their small cottage at the edge of Pack territory, the garden she tended, the life she'd tried to build from ruins. "I, Ilara Thorn, accept your rejection." The words tasted like ash. The bond snapped completely. The absence left a hollow ache in her chest, but also something else, a strange relief like shackles breaking. She was free of him, free of the false hope she'd carried. "Furthermore," Demon continued, and Ilara's blood went cold at his tone, "the Pack Council has reviewed your situation. 3 mouths to feed, no mate, minimal pack contribution. You're a drain on Silvercrest resources." "I work in the gardens," Ilara protested, her voice stronger than she felt. "I contribute. Barely enough to feed yourself, let alone 2 dependents." Beta Marcus stepped forward, his expression apologetic but firm. "The Council has decided. You have until dawn to leave Pack territory, all 3 of you." "What?" The word escaped as a broken whisper. "You're banishing us? Mira is 6 years old. Finn is barely 4 months. Should have thought about that before becoming such a liability," Seraphina interjected smoothly, moving to Demon's side with proprietary grace. "Silvercrest thrives because we're strong. We can't afford to carry dead weight." The crowd murmured agreement. Ilara saw familiar faces, neighbors, people she'd grown up with, all avoiding her gaze. Only old Meredith. The pack healer looked troubled, but even she remained silent. "Please," Ilara heard herself say, hating the desperation in her voice. "At least let me stay until spring. Finn is too young to travel. The rogue territories between here and the next pack. Not my problem." Demon's eyes were chips of ice. "Dawn Omega, be gone, or I'll have warriors escort you out myself." He turned away dismissively, taking Seraphina's hand to lead her toward the ceremonial altar. The crowd's attention shifted with them, already forgetting Ilara's existence. She was nothing now, rejected, banished, alone. Mira tugged her dress. "Ilara, what's happening? Where are we going?" Ilara couldn't answer. She just held Finn tighter and backed away from the celebration that continued as if her world hadn't just shattered. The walk back to their cottage passed in a blur of shock and growing panic. How could she protect 2 children alone? The nearest Allied pack was 3 days' journey through dangerous territory. Inside their small home, she frantically packed supplies, clothes, food, blankets. Her hands shook as she counted the meager coins in their emergency stash. Not enough, never enough. "We're going on an adventure," she told Mira with false brightness, helping her sister into warm layers. "We'll find a new home." "Will there be other children to play with?" Mira asked hopefully. "I hope so, sweetie." Ilara kissed her sister's forehead, breathing in her innocent scent. "I really hope so." As she worked through the night, preparing for a journey that might kill them all, Ilara felt something shift inside her. The pain of rejection was still raw, but beneath it grew something harder. Not quite anger, more like steel forming in a forge. She would survive this. She would keep her siblings safe. And someday, somehow, Demon and all of Silvercrest would see exactly what they'd thrown away. By the time false dawn painted the sky grey, Ilara stood at the border with a pack on her back, Finn secured in a sling against her chest, and Mira's hand firmly in hers. She didn't look back. Chapter 2. The Rogue Road. The first day of travel was deceptively peaceful. Ilara followed the old trader's path that skirted the edges of pack territories, staying in the neutral zones, where rogues rarely ventured during daylight. Mira walked bravely beside her, only occasionally asking to rest. Finn remained mostly quiet, sensing perhaps that silence meant safety. By the second day their supplies were already running low. Ilara had hoped to hunt, but she couldn't shift while carrying Finn, and leaving the children alone was unthinkable. They survived on berries, stream water, and the 2 dried meat portions she'd rationed carefully. The third day brought rain, cold, relentless autumn rain that soaked through their cloaks and turned the path to mud. Mira developed a cough. Finn grew feverish, his tiny body burning against Ilara's chest. Panic clawed at her throat as she searched desperately for shelter. She found a small cave just as darkness fell, barely more than an indentation in the rocks, but it was dry. Ilara built a careful fire and wrapped both children in their driest blankets, holding them close to share body heat. "Ilara?" Mira's voice was small and scared. "Are we going to die?" "No," Ilara said firmly, though fear whispered otherwise. "I won't let that happen." But the fourth day proved her a liar. They were crossing through a narrow ravine when the rogues appeared, 3 of them, lean and scarred, their eyes holding the madness of wolves without pack bonds. "Well, look what we have here," the largest one growled, his lips pulling back to reveal yellowed teeth. "A little Omega and some pups. Lost, are we?" Ilara pushed Mira behind her, clutching Finn tighter. "We're just passing through, we don't want trouble." "Too bad. Trouble found you anyway." The rogue circled closer, scenting the air. "No pack marks, no mate protection. You're unclaimed territory, sweetheart." The other 2 rogues laughed, spreading out to flank her. Ilara's wolf surged forward, desperate to protect her siblings, but she was weak from travel and hunger. Her shift would be slow, vulnerable. They'd tear her apart before she could defend herself. "Please," she tried again, hating how her voice shook. "Take what we have. Just let the children go." "What you have," the leader said, stepping closer, "is exactly what we want." He lunged. Ilara screamed, trying to shift, trying to do anything. A roar shattered the air. It wasn't a wolf's howl, it was something deeper, more primal, a sound that resonated with ancient power and absolute authority. The rogues froze mid-attack, their bodies going rigid with instinctive submission. From the ridge above, a massive silver wolf descended with impossible grace, even in wolf form. His presence was overwhelming, easily twice the size of a normal alpha, his coat gleaming like moonlight on water, his eyes burning gold with inner fire. The Lycan King. Ilara had heard stories of him, the ancient bloodline that ruled over all packs, whose authority superseded even the strongest alphas. King Aldric Moonshadow, called the Silver Death by those who opposed him, who enforced pack law with merciless efficiency and rarely ventured from his royal court. The rogues recognized him too. They dropped immediately to their bellies, whimpering in terrified submission. King Aldric shifted with fluid ease, his human form no less imposing, tall and powerfully built with silver-white hair that fell past his shoulders and those same burning gold eyes. He wore traveling clothes rather than ceremonial robes, but power radiated from him like heat from a forge. Attacking an Omega and children, his voice was deep and resonant, carrying the weight of absolute command. "You know the penalty for such cowardice." "Mercy, my king," the lead rogue begged, his face pressed to the mud. "We didn't know. You knew exactly what you were doing." Aldric's expression was carved from ice. "That's why you chose such vulnerable prey." He made a small gesture. The three rogues went rigid, then collapsed, unconscious or dead. Elara couldn't tell. She stood frozen, torn between relief and new fear. The Lycan King's justice was legendary, but so was his ruthlessness toward those who broke his laws. His golden eyes turned to her, and Elara felt the weight of that gaze like a physical force. She saw him take in every detail, her mud-stained clothes, the baby clutched protectively to her chest, the small girl hiding behind her skirts. "You're far from pack territory," he observed, his tone neutral. "Traveling alone with children, that's either very brave or very foolish." "Necessary," Elara replied, finding her voice. She wouldn't show weakness, not now. "My king." Something flickered in his expression, interest perhaps or approval. He moved closer with predatory grace, and Elara forced herself not to retreat. Behind her she felt Mira trembling. Aldric stopped a few paces away, studying them. Up close, Elara could see the ancient wisdom in his eyes, the scars that marked a warrior's body, the raw power held in check by iron control. "What's your name, Omega?" "Elara Thorn, my king. These are my siblings, Mira and Finn." "Why are you traveling through rogue territory with 2 children?" The question held no judgment, only curiosity. Elara debated how much to reveal, then decided truth was her only option. "We were banished from Silvercrest Pack. I needed to find safe territory before—" She glanced at Finn's flushed face. "Before winter comes." "Banished." His eyes narrowed. "On what grounds?" "I was. A burden, my king. My parents died, leaving me to care for my siblings. Alpha Demon rejected our mate bond and decided we drained too many resources." She said it flatly, without emotion, but saw anger flash across the king's face like lightning. Demon of Silvercrest rejected his fated mate and banished her with dependent children? The temperature seemed to drop with each word. "That violates 3 separate pack laws under my jurisdiction." Before Elara could respond, Finn let out a weak cry. His fever had spiked again, his tiny body shaking with chills despite being wrapped in blankets. Elara adjusted him desperately, murmuring soothing sounds, but he continued to whimper. Then Mira stepped forward. The little girl moved past Elara with surprising courage, looking up at the towering Lycan King with wide, imploring eyes. "Can you save us, my king?" Her voice was small but clear. "Please. My brother is sick. And Elara is trying so hard, but we don't have anywhere to go." The silence that followed felt eternal. Aldric stared down at the child who'd addressed him with such innocent faith. Something in his expression shifted, a crack in the icy armor, a glimpse of something almost vulnerable. He looked from Mira to Elara, his gaze lingering on Finn's feverish face, then returned to Elara herself. When he spoke, his voice held an edge of decision that brooked no argument. "You're coming with me." Chapter 3. The Royal Court. Elara's breath caught. "My king, I don't understand." "Your pack Alpha violated sacred law," Aldric stated, his tone leaving no room for debate. "Until I investigate this matter personally, you and your siblings are under royal protection. You'll come to Shadowmere Palace." "But we can't," Elara began, overwhelmed. "That wasn't a request." His eyes gleamed with authority. "The child is ill and needs proper care. You're exhausted and malnourished. This discussion is over." He moved with decisive efficiency, gathering their meager belongings and securing them to his own travel pack. When Elara tried to protest again, he silenced her with a single look. "My warriors are camped a mile north. We'll reach them before nightfall, and the palace by tomorrow evening." He studied Finn's flushed face with surprising gentleness. "The boy needs a healer. Now." The walk to his camp passed in a blur. True to his word, a contingent of royal warriors waited in a concealed clearing, 12 elite guards who bowed immediately at their king's approach. Their eyes widened at the sight of Elara and the children, but none questioned Aldrich's orders. The camp healer, an older woman named Bronwyn, immediately took charge of Finn. She clicked her tongue at his fever, prepared a quick remedy from her supplies, and got the baby to drink despite his fussing. Within an hour, his fever began to break. "He'll be fine," Bronwyn assured Elara, her tone brisk but kind. "Just needed proper care. The little one too. Get some food in her, and that cough will clear up." Elara watched in stunned silence as the warriors efficiently provided everything her siblings needed: warm food, clean blankets, a secure place to sleep. They treated her with careful respect, their deference making her uncomfortable. She was just an Omega, just a banished nobody. But Aldrich had claimed them under royal protection, and these warriors would die before questioning their king's judgment. That night, as Mira slept peacefully and Finn rested comfortably in a nest of soft furs, Elara found herself unable to settle. She sat by the fire watching the flames, trying to process the impossible turn her life had taken. "You should rest." Aldrich's voice came from the shadows. He moved like smoke, appearing beside her without warning. "Tomorrow will be a long journey." "I can't sleep," Elara admitted. "This doesn't feel real." He settled onto a log across from her, his massive frame somehow making the movement graceful. In the firelight, his silver hair gleamed, and those gold eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. "Why did you do it?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "Why help us? You don't know us. We're nothing to you." "That child, Mira, she asked me to save you." His expression was unreadable. "When was the last time someone showed me that kind of trust, that kind of courage?" He paused. "Besides, I despise cowards who prey on the vulnerable. Your Alpha is both a fool and a lawbreaker." "You'll really investigate him?" "I don't make empty threats, Elara." The way he said her name sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. "Demon will answer for his actions, but that's a matter for later." His gaze sharpened. "Right now I'm more interested in you." "Me?" She blinked in confusion. "Why?" "Because you survived 4 days alone through hostile territory with 2 small children. Because you stood your ground against 3 rogues despite being outmatched. Because when your mate rejected you, you didn't break. You fought." He leaned forward slightly. "That's not common even among stronger wolves." Elara didn't know how to respond to that. She'd never thought of herself as particularly strong or brave. She'd just done what was necessary. "I protect what's mine," she said finally. "Mira and Finn are all I have left." "And what about what you deserve?" The question hung heavy between them. "What about justice? Respect? A life beyond mere survival?" "I'm an Omega," Elara replied, old bitterness seeping through. "We don't get to want things like that." Aldrich's expression darkened. "Is that what your pack taught you? That your designation determines your worth?" "Isn't that how it works everywhere?" "Not in my court." His voice held conviction like steel. "In Shadowmere, strength comes in many forms. Loyalty, courage, resilience. These matter more than biological rank." He stood, towering over her. "You'll see that for yourself soon enough." He walked away before she could respond, leaving Elara alone with her churning thoughts and a strange flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with fear. Chapter 4. Destiny Unveiled. Shadowmere Palace rose from the mountainside like something from legend, white stone towers reaching toward the sky, massive walls carved with generations of history, windows glowing with warm light against the approaching dusk. Elara had heard descriptions, but nothing prepared her for the reality of the Lycan King's seat of power. The courtiers who met them in the Great Hall were equally intimidating, elegant wolves in rich clothing, all bearing the confident air of those accustomed to power. Their eyes tracked Ilara with barely concealed curiosity and judgment. "An Omega," one woman whispered, not quietly enough. "Why would the king bring an Omega here?" "And children," another added with disdain. "How inappropriate." Aldrich's growl silenced them immediately. "Lady Ilara Thorne and her siblings are under royal protection. Anyone who disrespects them disrespects me. Are we clear?" The court bowed as one, chastened, but Ilara felt their stares like knives as she was escorted to guest quarters, rooms larger than her entire cottage had been, with soft carpets, massive beds, and a bathing chamber that made Mira gasp with delight. Servants appeared with fresh clothes, warm food, and toys for the children. Finn, now fully recovered, laughed as a young maid played with him. Mira explored every corner with wide-eyed wonder. "Is this real?" her sister whispered. "Are we really staying here?" "For now," Ilara replied carefully. She didn't dare hope for more. Over the following days, a strange routine developed. Aldrich handled his royal duties during daylight, meetings with pack alphas, disputes to mediate, laws to enforce. But he made time each evening to check on them, his presence becoming oddly familiar. He brought Mira books from the royal library. He personally oversaw Finn's continued care. And he talked with Ilara, long conversations by the fire about pack politics, history, philosophy. She found herself sharing thoughts and opinions she'd never dared express before, and he listened with genuine interest. "You're wasted as a simple pack member," he told her one evening. "Your mind is sharp, your insights are valuable." "Pretty words for an Omega," Ilara replied, trying to keep her tone light. "Stop doing that." His voice held frustration. "Stop diminishing yourself. I see you, Ilara. The real you, not the label others forced on you." The intensity in his gaze made her heart race. Something was building between them, something she didn't dare name. He was the Lycan King. She was a banished Omega. This couldn't be anything more than temporary protection. But then the full moon rose. Ilara woke to restless energy thrumming through her veins. The moon called to all wolves, but tonight felt different, stronger, more urgent. She found herself drawn to the palace gardens, seeking open sky. Aldrich was already there, standing beneath the silver light with his head tilted back. He turned as she approached, and she saw the wolf in his eyes, primal and powerful. "I felt you wake," he said quietly. "Felt your call." "That's not possible. We're not—" She stopped, unable to finish. "Mates?" He stepped closer, and the moonlight seemed to intensify around him. "Are you certain about that? You're the Lycan King. I'm brave, strong, resilient, everything I never knew I needed." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand cupped her cheek with surprising gentleness. "I've lived 5 centuries, Ilara. I've had lovers, I've had companions, but I've never had a fated mate. The moon, apparently, was waiting for you." "That's impossible," she whispered, even as something deep inside her recognized the truth. The bond that had formed wasn't like the broken one with Demon. This was deeper, stronger, ancient. "The Lycan Kings mate differently than common wolves," Aldrich explained, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. "Our bonds don't appear immediately. They grow, building on respect and connection rather than instant attraction. What I feel when I look at you, when I'm near you, that's the moon's blessing finally awakening. But I was already rejected once. I can't—" Fear and hope warred inside her. "Demon was a fool who never deserved you. I am asking, not commanding, if you'll consider accepting what fate is offering us. No pressure, no demands, just possibility." Ilara's breath caught. She thought of everything that had brought her here. The rejection, the banishment, the desperate journey, Mira's courageous plea. Every terrible moment had led to this impossible chance. "I have siblings to care for," she said carefully. "They're my responsibility. They would be our responsibility. Mira and Finn would be royal family, protected, educated, loved." His voice softened. "I don't offer this lightly, Ilara. I'm asking you to be my queen, to stand beside me, to help me rule with the strength and compassion I see in you every day. I don't know how to be a queen. Neither did I know how to be king when I inherited the crown. We learned together." He smiled then, genuine and warm. "Besides, you've already proven yourself. You protected your family against impossible odds. You faced down rogues. You challenged a Lycan king's assumptions about rank and worth. That's exactly the partner I need." Tears pricked Ilara's eyes, not from sadness, but from overwhelming emotion. Everything she'd thought was ending had actually been a beginning. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll accept this bond. I'll accept you." Aldrich pulled her close, and when he kissed her, the mate bond exploded into full life. Golden and silver light swirling around them as the moon blessed their union. Ilara felt her wolf surge forward joyfully, recognizing her true mate at last. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Aldrich rested his forehead against hers. "My queen," he murmured. "My fierce, brave queen." From the palace windows, Ilara caught a glimpse of Mira's excited face pressed to the glass, watching with obvious delight. Her little sister had believed from the beginning that the king would save them. She'd been right, just not in the way any of them expected. The formal ceremony took place under the next full moon, with representatives from every pack in attendance. When Demon of Silvercrest arrived, his expression shifted from confusion to horror as he realized what had happened. The Omega he'd thrown away now wore a crown and stood beside the most powerful wolf in existence. Aldrich's justice was swift. Silvercrest's alpha position was stripped, awarded to Beta Marcus, who had privately objected to the banishment. Demon was sentenced to serve as an Omega himself for 5 years, a punishment that fit his crime perfectly. As the ceremony concluded and Ilara stood before the gathered packs as their new queen, she thought of that terrified girl standing in Silvercrest's clearing, watching her world collapse. That girl could never have imagined this moment. The power, the respect, the love of a king and the safety of her siblings. Mira tugged her ceremonial gown, beaming up at her. "I told you he would save us." Ilara laughed, lifting her sister into her arms, while Aldrich held Finn. "Yes, little one, you were right all along. She had been rejected, banished, and nearly destroyed. But from those ashes, she'd risen as something stronger than she'd ever dreamed possible. Not just a survivor, but a queen. And this time no one would ever make her feel worthless again,